to understand how these galaxies formed, how the stars within the galaxies evolve, and then understand how our sun also will evolve. There is a new field of astronomy which is to try to find planets and stars with planets like our own, solar systems like our own, in other parts of our galaxy. So, this cannot be done very far away, but in among the nearby stars, we are now trying to discover whether there are planets like the planets around our sun. And back, the 20 years ago, we have not discovered a single planet around a star close to us. And since about 1995, we have now started to discover more and more planets. The technology has advanced, and now there is about 200 planets, what they call extrasolar planets.
But are we not talking about this planet X that is in our solar system? Is there any validity to that? Or?
Okay, now that is an interesting sort of story. That's I mean, since Pluto was discovered in 1938, there has been always speculation that there is another planet which circles the sun. But that theory sort of has gone away, and then somewhere around in 1985, there was a theory that there was not a star, actually, a dwarf sun circling the sun and taking about 25 million years to go right around the sun. And since it takes such a long time, it was slightly possible that we had not discovered the existence of something. The reason why that speculation was brought in was because we saw that there was a lot of asteroids which hit the Earth about once in 25 million years. So, there was a sort of a cyclic period where we saw asteroid impacts on the Earth, and they were trying to explain that by this mysterious star that was going around the sun, at
which is called Planet X, right?
It could be a Planet X or whatever, and causing a perturbation and creating large amount of comets to come in and strike the Earth. And maybe one of those, I mean, we know that in 65 million years ago, one of those asteroids came and hit the Earth and destroyed all the dinosaurs, and then the mammals sort of evolved from there, and we are here. If that asteroid didn't hit us 65 million years ago, the mammals wouldn't have developed on Earth, and we wouldn't have been here. So, we would have been still ruled by dinosaurs, and the Earth would have been covered was ruled by dinosaurs. Anyway,
so the study of the astronomy, it also hints at the evolution of the universe and evolution of life in the universe.
Yes, it covers everything. Really, it covers life, the universe, and everything.
So, what is actually the purpose of study? And also, if you look at the investment that is done on planet Earth to investigate and send satellites and other spaceships and so many things,
right.
Why is so much invested on this field of astronomy? What is the purpose?
Okay. I mean, I think it is the science basically wants to know our origins. Now, if you are a religious person, you already know the answer, so you don't need it. God created the Earth and sun and the Earth, and that's it. But since the scientists don't believe that, and we really want to know scientifically how the universe started, we need to go and study what we can see out there. Unfortunately, unlike any other science where you can do experiments on Earth and see what's happening, you cannot do experiments on stars. They are far away. You can only observe them with a telescope, get whatever information you can, and from that information interpret how stars evolve. So, we have understood a lot about our sun. We know that our sun started its existence about 5 billion years ago, and it will live another 5 billion years. That's a long time, so none of us have to worry about it, but in 5 billion years the sun would get destroyed.
So, until the sun is alive, that is the age of the sun, another 5 billion years, 5 billion years, the earthlings like us, don't we have to worry about the end of Earth?
Okay, so things like evolution of the sun doesn't really affect us. But then, for example, these asteroids, if you take these asteroids, that's one thing where there is a very strong practical application. We know that asteroids hit the Earth at a regular interval, and if a large asteroid was to hit the Earth like what hit us 65 million years ago, the Earth would get destroyed. So, there is currently a fairly large NASA program we are trying to discover all possible asteroids, things which are big rocks basically, maybe 100 meters across or so, which are orbiting the sun, which we don't know about. We were trying to discover all of them, and from that try to discover whether any of them will strike the Earth.
So that is whether there's any possible threat that
yes.
is posed.
And if there is a possible threat and we do discover one of those things are going to strike the Earth, if we know in advance, then we may be able to take some action and stop the destruction of the Earth.
So take some action in the sense, I guess scientifically NASA must be
yes.
having
So, I mean, there are a lot of things that can be done if we do discover some planet like that. We could possibly send a spacecraft to that asteroid and deviate its path so that it will deviate by a slight amount and will not strike the Earth.
Right.
So this is that's a very practical use. I mean, we have to. I mean, okay, these are rare events, but these are rare events that we know happen once 1,000 years, or once in, the bigger events happen once 50,000 years.
But the thing is that if that rare event happen, everything ends. So
yeah.
I guess,
and actually it's very interesting if you count out the sort of the statistical probability how many people will die, and how many the loss per, because maybe 1 billion people will die if something like that happens. Actually, it is a very important thing to guard against.
Exactly.
It depends on where it strikes. I mean, so being able to stop that is a very useful part of astronomy.
Right. And also, Doctor, I was wondering, now coming back to the New Year, you actually described in great detail as to why the New Year date was right now set at the 13th of April. Right. So in an astronomical framework, you also defined gave a classical definition to the New Year, right, saying how it about the sun's transition. Other than that, in an astronomical framework, what other implications are there around the Sinhala or the Sinhala and Tamil and Sri Lankan New Year?
I mean, it's all cultural. I mean, there is nothing scientific. I mean, it's a framework. Its definition of that could be, it's certain extent arbitrary, to the extent that Easter is defined in some way, and which moves around. It's not on a fixed date. Now, this is fixed on the position of the sun on that day, and that would define the New Year. But other than that, the rest of the cultural things where you have auspicious times, it's very interesting, is the 6 hours that that is called Nonagete, which is quite interesting. That goes back to the fact that there is 365 and a quarter. That quarter, which is 6 hours, is the period that they have basically used as this period of Nonagate, which is supposed to be not in this year, not in the new year, and you are supposed to use it for religious observances. It has some astronomical implication, background to it, but it's really the astrological part of it is nothing to do with science.
But I don't really understand what you are saying, because if you say that other than that definition of the new year, right, of the transition from Meena to Mesha, right, actually, other than that, there's absolutely no implication of the planets and all the different auspicious times we have, because I believe that because we are part of the universe and all the planets do also have an impact on the Earth, that these things can be connected, isn't it so?
Okay, I mean, if you take, unfortunately scientifically you can prove that the planets as such have no, the planets do have influence on the Earth. I mean, the orbit of the Earth depends on the orbits of Jupiter and other planets, but it does not have impact on you personally. I mean, like as much as the sun or the moon has an impact on the tides, and the tides will change because of the position of the moon, but it will not have effect on you. Generally, I mean, this is very interesting because people bring up various theories. Why is there a monthly cycle, for example, and the moon goes around in a month. So why is that? Isn't that the moon affecting us? Actually, it is very interesting to look at that. That actually comes back the time that we were in the sea. There were turtles in the sea, which needed to go and lay their eggs on the earth, on the ground. And it was very useful if the turtles had a monthly cycle, because the high tide basically allowed the turtles to come on the ground, lay their eggs, and go back to the sea on high tide. So there was a monthly clock which was created by the moon, which was evolved by evolution built into the turtle's life. Now, we evolved a long time from the turtles, but that same monthly clock has been given to us because there was evolutionary no need to change that clock from a monthly cycle. And we have evolved that monthly cycle. Does not mean that we are governed by the moon.
Right.
It's just that we have inherited that from the time that we were back turtles in the sea rather than humans on Earth.
Okay, so we will illustrate on this aspect further. We will now take a small break and we will be back.